Toy Story 2 is another great example of a sequel that actually outdoes the original. What's up, everybody? So today I'm revisiting Toy Story 2. Came out in 1999 with the returning voices of Tom Hanks as Woody. Buzz Lightyear is voiced by Tim Allen. And now we have some new people, some new voices. We have Joan Cusack as the character of the Jessie the Cowgirl. And we have Kelsey Grammer as the character of the Prospector, or Stinky Pete. And this time around, there's a nice, flow between the toys. There was the conflict in the first one between Woody and Buzz. Now everyone is fine. They're all having a good time being Andy's toys. But this one, through a series of circumstances that start with an accidental rip in Woody's shoulder. He is not taken to cowboy camp with Andy, and he stays home. And then he gets stuck in a yard sale box. And then, even though Andy's mom says he's not for sale, Woody gets stolen by a toy collector. And so he's placed with these other toys, Jessie and Stinky Pete, and they're part of a collection of toys that this toy collector wants to sell to a toy museum in Japan. And then so it's up to Buzz and a few of the others, including Rex and Mr. Potato Head, Slinky Dog, to rescue Woody from being sent off to Japan. And it hits all those great notes that Pixar. This is when I think they really solidified how their stories are structured, while at the same time the technology of computer animation just made a quantum leap inside 4 years. You watch the first Toy Story and it's great, it's funny, it's endearing. At the same time, the limitations of this new technology are very, very clear. But now with the second one, there's texture, there's differences in lighting that they're able to accomplish, camera work, let's say, that can be done, which they were never able to do before. And it's the thing that I appreciated most, that I took away from it, is the life and feelings of these toys. You have the character of Jessie, who was abandoned by her owner, and how she's still kind of dealing with that loss. And then you have the character of Stinky Pete, who has this anger and resentment inside of him for never being chosen, and just kind of sitting on the shelves as everybody else gets picked up and played with and bought. So there's so many layers that they were able to add to the story, aside from what they started with in the first one, which is, the whole purpose of the toy is to make a kid happy. Well, now we're also thinking about the happiness of the toy. Are they happiest being of service to their owner? Are they happiest being chosen? Are they happiest being played with? So they were able to really add in those layers, and just great, great moments. Particularly for me, anyways, is the introduction of Jessie. She is such a sweet, loud, over-the-top character. There's this great scene where where Woody meets them, and she's just so excited that Woody is there, and Woody does not understand why she is so excited. And so there's like her bombastic excitement, and then there's this weird kind of creepy look at some point, which is obviously done on purpose, whereas her and Stinky Pete are walking towards him. It's it just seems very, very off-putting, but it adds such great, depth and layers for these characters, because then there's also the scene where she explains what happened to her and the kid that owned her before. And so there's not only the bombasticness of her character and her over-the-top aspects of talking and interacting with people, but now you also get to see other layers of sadness and loss that she feels. You also have just what it is like for toys who are kind of abandoned. So there's this one moment in the beginning where Woody finds um, one of those like squeaker toys in the shape of a penguin, and the fact that, he was basically forgotten about on the shelf because his squeaker broke. So, he's not worthy of being played with anymore, you know. So when I love how, like, okay, now we've established the lore and kind of the rules. What other pieces to this story can we add to it? you know so that I really loved. I loved the musical parts of the movie. So you have Jessie singing a song about what happened to her and her previous owner. Emily is her name, and she's singing a song like "When You Loved Me" is called the song, which is sung by Sarah McLachlan. And then in the end, we bring back the classic Toy Story song, "You've Got a Friend in Me." Only this time it's sung by the squeaker toy in the shape of a penguin that I previously mentioned. And even though he has this very kind of obviously squeaky voice, when he sings "You Have a Friend in Me," it's voiced by Robert Goulet. So they add these little aspects of it for, just comedic effect, for the emotional effect, and it works perfectly together. It's the thing about every single Toy Story movie up to now is that there's always going to be a number of years between each installment, but you can see the amount of care and attention to detail with regard to not only the computer animation aspect of it, but also, most importantly, the story aspect of it. They make sure that everything is there and it's there for a reason, to varying degrees of great, but it's there. Everything is being combed over with very, very delicately, and so I appreciate that. So it's worth watching. For a long time, it was my favorite, but we'll talk about which one is my favorite coming soon. Anyways, those are my thoughts. What about you guys? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Smash that like button, click subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.